G'day you cracking humans. So today's vlog is going to be on the Melbourne to Warrnambool. It's the iconic Australian bike race, the second oldest bike race in the world to Liège, Bastogne Liège. So it is 270 kilometres. It sort of changes every year with slight modifications in the course route, but it's basically from Melbourne to Warrnambool. It starts just outside of Melbourne at whereever. And it is probably Australia's greatest bike race. It's touted as the world's most dangerous Grand Fondo, which is pretty interesting because often people refer to it as an NRS race or a Grand Fondo. They're not quite sure what it fits into, and the reason for that is we have a lot of NRS riders, National Road Series professional cyclists, both men and women racing. They all start together, but the difference here is we have, with this particular race, is we have A graders, B graders, C graders, D graders, people just wanting to start the race and finish it, all thrown in together, and they leave for Werribee and they head down to Warrnambool. The race is over 270 kilometres. It often takes the main bunch anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, depending on whether it's a headwind, crosswind, just depending on the conditions. It's predominantly a flat course, but there's about 200 kilometres into the race. There's a massive climb, which is the KOM, which is where it pretty much breaks up, where it's all the pro cyclists attack on that main climb, and then there's a sort of a specialist group formed thereafter if there isn't a break already gone. You know, it's an iconic race. It is the biggest race of the year for a lot of people. You have to prepare well in advance for it. GTR look after the event, so we're going to go over today. We're going to talk to those guys. There's a big team of people that are involved in this. There is so much that goes into organising a race like this. So there's several different parties involved in organising the event. There's Cycling Victoria, who are the governing body for Victorian racing. There's GTR, who are delivering the event, and then there's the Melbourne to Warrnambool Race Committee, who are based in Warrnambool, and they are a stalwart group of people who have been around that committee for many years. And so GTR and Cycling Victoria liaise with the committee in Warrnambool and get everything ticked off and approved by the committee. So essentially the committee make all the final decisions, and really what we're trying to achieve with this video is we want to make this race great again. So how do we do that? But in the meantime, we're going to go see the people from GTR and ask them what goes into making this race happen. How are you finding, running this event?
In many ways, it's look. I mean, most of these NRS events have got their challenges. More so financially than anything. So, we're very fortunate that we've got the committee are very helpful. They've got a lot of IP, a lot of knowledge of the event. So, we certainly lean on the Melbourne Warrnambool committee quite regularly.
Yeah. Well, the Warrnambool is 275 odd kilometres. I think it might be a fraction longer this year than last year. And every year there's always some little changes. The councils change, some regulations around police change, so it can't always be the same course. And also every year they're trying to learn from last year. So as you'd be aware, it's always a bit of a shit fight at the start. It's madness for the first hour or so, and there's lots of little twists and turns earlier on. So they're always trying to iron out some of those logistical bumps in terms of the rider experience, and then dealing with the different councils along the way over a 270k course, negotiating with councils for permission, negotiating with police for permits. It's a rolling road closure, so for 270 odd k's, there's an envelope which has a lead car at the front and a police car at the back, and it rolls along, and all these guys on motorbikes need to jump forward and block off driveways, block off roads and all sorts of stuff. So logistically it's really difficult, and particularly because it's such a long course. In addition to that, you've got to organise volunteers, you've got to organise people to set stuff up at KOM points and sprint points, and in Warrnambool and in Melbourne, and so it really is a big operation, and it's not cheap. All that stuff, police permits and stuff, it's very expensive.
Okay. So
much more labour intensive than I ever envisaged. Having not worked in this scale of event space before, to walk into it, my mind was blown. So much work goes into these things.
Yeah.
It's the forgotten part of the events.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
The rules and regulations in Victoria are a lot more strict in Victoria compared to other states. So Vic Roads here have a code and legislation that you need to be a Vic Roads accredited traffic management company, whereas other states for example, we're going to Tasmania and we're doing all the traffic ourselves.
Right.
We're trained. We've got qualified people who are trained in traffic management.
Yeah.
But there's, you don't need to have the huge amount of background and things that traffic management companies have like they do in Victoria. So to get accredited is just a huge exercise, hence why the traffic is such a huge cost in Victoria.
Yeah, right.
I deal with the committee, the Warrnambool Race Committee.
Yeah.
So basically they're a group of really enthusiastic Warrnambool people who are the custodians of the race, and basically they want to just make sure that whoever organises the race looks after the...
How many people is it?
The committee is probably, I think the committee consists of about 7 guys, one lady.
Yeah.
And they're all
former bike riders?
Well, yes, most of them are. Jeanette Ferris is the mother of Michelle Ferris, who used to be Olympic track cyclist. So she's got an interest in cycling.
Yeah, right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, they just love it.
Are they all keen, for this thing? They all love it? Or?
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
They do it for no monetary reward. They just love the sport, and they just love the event coming down to Warrnambool. Is
it expensive? And I mean, obviously these things cost money. You know, the police. You've got to pay the police, and then you've got to raise money to pay for that. How does it? I mean, do you find that sponsors want to get on board?
Well, look, I mean, that's as much as my role is general manager of the company. I certainly look after the commercial side of it as well, which is definitely challenging. So it's always hard when you haven't got a great level of, I suppose, TV coverage. So I guess what we've done this year is we've brought on V2 to bring in a lot more focus with social media, using Facebook Live and Periscope, and trying to bring the rider to the spectator. Bring the race to the spectators. So what we're trying to do is make it more attractive for sponsors to come on board. So it's always the hardest part of an event is selling it. Particularly an event that's only 1 day long. It does have a great history. So in many respects, there's a little bit of interest, but certainly financially, there's some big costs out there. Victoria Police, comes at a big expense.
Does GTO events make any money really out of these events?
So in terms of revenue streams, it is limited. So we obviously get the entry fees, we get sponsorship money, and then funding from government. So they're really the 3 ways of doing it. Do we make money out of it? No. Is that why we're in it? No. We're certainly here to put on a race for the athletes. It's part of the National Road Series, and we're committed to running that series with Cycling Australia. Obviously, us doing 3 events in there with the Tour of Tassie, Tour of Gippsland, and Melbourne and Warrnambool. It's we feel that they're 3 very important races for the for the sport. So we're not in it to necessarily make money. We're in it to put on a great race and a safe race first and foremost.
Yeah, we don't make money out of this event, unfortunately.
Do you lose money?
There will be a loss on this event. If not, we'll break even. And I suppose the biggest problem with the event is the commercial element of it. It's hard. There's not a massive field, although it's got the historical part to it. There hasn't been a lot of commercial interest, and I think moving forward, if we want to scale the event and to make it something really successful and bigger, it does need that commercial backing.
Yeah.
And that'll be one of the biggest challenges over the I suppose the event pre-season that we'll face.
Yeah. The race used to be a handicap many years ago.
Yep.
And now it's a scratch race. A lot of people who are passionate about this race would love to see it go back to being a handicap race. And that would probably, if it was a handicap, it would alleviate some of the danger of the bunch being together and having crashes.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on it being a handicap again?
Oh, look, in all reality, it'd have been lovely to have a handicap race, but we're governed by police permit, which restricts the ability to do a handicap race. So it's a pure scratch race now, and basically we're governed by what we call the race envelope. So we've got a limited space of time in order for the race to proceed along the course, which is approximately 15 minutes.
Okay, so if the break attacks goes beyond 15 minutes, say the break goes out to a half an hour, what are the implications?
The implications are that potentially the police can stop the race completely on the day, or we've got measures in place to cover that aspect, so we'll potentially split the race envelope into 2. but it'll be really back to the chief commissaire and the police to actually get the bunch to tighten up and bring it back to within the 15-minute envelope. Yeah.
Now that's governed by the NRS teams. I mean, obviously we have the National Road Series teams, plus we have the individual riders.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the NRS teams are the ones who are going to dictate who chases. You know, for example, if Avanti have 2 riders in the break, they're not going to chase.
That's right.
If State of Matter Map have a rider in the break with Avanti, then those 2 teams aren't going to chase, and so on. So, how do we fix that?
Look, I think last year was a good case in point when the leading teams had the NRS series sewn up, so all the other teams didn't have to race. And then the chief com said, look, you need to race, otherwise you could potentially be kicked out of the race. And so the teams, in their wisdom, chose to pick up their game and race and close the gap.
Is there an opportunity to, say, start the race maybe in Geelong or even, you know, somewhere else, and then run it down the Great Ocean Road so it's off the main highway? Is that something that you guys have talked about?
Yeah, I guess our approach to this year was very much just to you know, witness it firsthand, to go through the process and understand the race, and before you make too many big changes. But certainly everything's up for review, and if it means you know, for the viability and sustainability of the event to do that, we'll certainly look at it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we should look at moving forward. It's obviously a great iconic spot, and probably the revamp that the Melbourne to Warrnambool needs. So
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't be, I suppose, unmanageable, but we need to look at it come, I suppose, post-event. I suppose the biggest challenge for us is the road closure, the rolling road closure. Over 277 k's this year. Police have found it difficult to manage, along with our resources in Motor Scouts, and that's as the field blows out to, I suppose, a great distance, that it is hard to manage from police resourcing issues. So they're not particularly happy with the event, and it's something that we are, I suppose, monitoring that relationship, and have worked really hard this year to put in place a few changes that will keep everyone happy, and we think that are positive changes to the event as well.
Do the police share our passion for this race? I mean, do they? Obviously, safety is their number one priority, but would they stop the race?
Yeah, look, they've threatened to do it when it's got beyond what they deem as a safe envelope for them to manage. So it's not only the riders, but it's the general public and the cars out there. So they enjoy the race. It's a pretty tough race overall for the riders and the police. But yes, potentially they can stop the race if they deem it unsafe.
Yeah. Do they want to see this event be successful?
Yeah, I think they do. And there's a lot of people within the police force that have done the event a number of times.
Yeah.
But there's obviously the issue of keeping the community happy as well, and it does have a large impact on I suppose a great deal of the western region. It closes so much of their roads for I suppose a great deal of time as well. So
have you heard any banter amongst the committee in terms of changing the course of the race down the Great Ocean Road or something like that to make the race better?
Look, they leave it up to the race organisers to develop the course, and we develop the course, and we need to show them the course for their approval. They've never wanted us to go down the Great Ocean Road, to my knowledge, but the course we've got, I think, is fantastic. This year we had to change the course. We had a detour through Cressy, which was about a 2k detour off the Hamilton Highway, and the police said that wasn't sufficient to get the backlog of cars off the highway. So we found a new course that was 30 kilometres off the Hamilton Highway, which only added a couple of kilometres to the overall race, and the police were happy.
The medals are traditionally a big thing
Yes.
for the riders. Are you the person that organises the medals?
Unfortunately not. We do work closely with the committee, who traditionally own the event and are very much involved in a lot of the decision making. So they do handle the medals. And I know it's something that in the past it's been a real, it's a really important aspect of the event, because I know for a lot of riders, especially if you do multiple events, it's nice to be able to hang your medals up, and having a husband who's an Ironman, I know the importance of medals, and it's not just a piece of medal, it's a significant piece of an experience that you've worked hard for.
Yeah, it's recognition of a huge achievement, really.
Yes, correct. Yeah, recognition of all those hours of training, those early mornings, and something that you want to display and be able to show your family and friends what you've done.
That's right.
Yeah.
Marketing this event, I would love to. I'm not racing the event, so I'll be there. But if I was sitting at home, I'd love to watch this thing on Periscope or Facebook Live or television. Probably not so much television.
Yeah.
Are you going to have a bigger focus? Are the V2 guys going to have a big focus on live streaming this event?
Yeah, correct. There will be live streaming throughout the event on Facebook Live. And then obviously, as per previous years, there's live radio broadcast from 3YB that will happen from Panmure into Raglan Parade, the finish line.
So in terms of women, in the 100th edition last year, there was a lot of women racing. What is happening this year? Are we getting a...
Yeah, so there's about 24 women that raced last year. Up until about 2 weeks ago, we had 7 entered. Not sure why, but we're down to 3. So it's a bit of a shame. The numbers obviously came out for the 100th, but yeah, look, it's obviously a difficult race, and people obviously train and they commit to it. So whether it's a form reason, I'm not sure, but yeah, we're down to 3.
Is there good prize money for...
Yeah, so the prize money is quite impressive for this event, and this year they're offering equal prize money for males and females.
Cycling Victoria do the promotion and responsible for entries for the event. There is a program in place that it has worked over the last year. That same program's in place. Unfortunately, it hasn't given the same results. I feel that us as an event promoter have equalled the prize money for males and females, which is unusual as well. I think it's the first time it's happened in this NRS series. So $2,500 for the first woman rider is quite significant. $15,000 prize pool split equally between men and women.
Whether we need to change it up for the women or whether we put a different focus on it, traditionally you've done it. You know how tough this event is. So to have a decrease in numbers when it's not the 100th year wasn't a surprise, but at the same time, I guess it's disappointing in a sense, but we understand why it's happened that way. So we need to, after this year's event, sit down and review what we do in the future. Like, is it something that we build into the bigger picture of the day? But of course, we can't make the race less hard, because that's what the Melbourne to Warrnambool is all about. So
there's a lot of discussion this year about women wanting to start somewhere else, wanting to start a shorter race. Has there been any banter in this room about that, about shortening the race for women?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, it's actually a really good option, to be really honest. I mean, you think about what the race is as well for women, it's equal prize money, so that is rare. So we do try and set it up to make it more attractive for women to race. If it means a shorter race, well, yeah, I think that's something that we need to look at for future years, absolutely.
Whatbom, who are doing the jerseys for our event, because that will be a feature this year. I think that the riders are going to notice the difference in the jersey presentations, and they're a Whatbom product. So Whatbom are our jersey suppliers, and they've designed up some really cool jerseys for presentations, and then we also like to know the feedback from the athletes as well, as to when you win, or when you win a jersey, you win a sprint or a mountain champion, what's the best form of recognition? So at the moment we have jerseys. Riders receive prize money if that's appropriate to the award that they win, but always intrigued to know sort of what else out there can make a difference and really put that edge on it, so that the riders are trying even harder to be mountain champion or sprint champion or overall.
How do you think we can make this race great again? The Melbourne to Warrnambool, it's a very passionate race in a lot of Australians' minds, because it used to be the longest one-day race in the world. How do we make this race great again?
I think that's a hard question to answer, actually. Like, this is my first year, and I've read a little bit about the history of it all, but I think it's trying to find an iconic starting point. Like, it's moved around quite a bit from the centre of the city now out to Werribee, and the Werribee start is good because you can contain all your infrastructure in one spot and not have to battle through too many hurdles of getting out of the start onto the course. Whereas in the city, with all the changes to the freeways and the infrastructure, it's near on impossible to go from the centre of the city onto the course without causing too many traffic disruptions. So that's part of it looking at it from an operations point of view, which is what I always do. And I think it's about promoting the event too. It's a unique race in terms of you really have to have a good base and skill to be able to complete the race. It's not a race that anyone can do, so it's probably just getting CV who promote the event to increase their promotion and probably positivity around the event, because it's a great event.
All right, it was really good catching up with the guys from GTR who organised the Melbourne to Warrnambool. Now, the Melbourne to Warrnambool was the longest one-day international road race in the world until they shortened it. They shortened it from Melbourne to Werribee, and now it's a 277-kilometre race from Werribee, which is just outside of Melbourne, to Warrnambool. Australians are very passionate about this bike race, especially people who have raced it before. So there's a lot of, whenever the Melbourne to Warrnambool comes around, there's a lot of people who sort of voice their opinions on how we can save the race. It doesn't get the publicity it deserves in the mainstream media, and therefore we don't get the big sort of dollars coming through to sponsor the event. So things need to change. Things need to be sort of amended and whatnot, but how that looks, we don't know. And there's a lot of restrictions and things like that, so as you've seen in the discussions. But this is an opportunity. GTR events are doing this for the first time ever. They've never done this event before, so they're going to go through the motions of doing the event this time round, and then they're going to look at ways they can improve the race in future years. So it's a good thing that they're looking after the race. If they are open to feedback. So they said today, we would love to hear from people who've raced the race, people who've been around the race for years, very open to feedback. So that's what the comment section is for below. It's a great place below to share what you think and how we should amend the race and change the race, and some suggestions on the route, some suggestions on how to raise money for the event. I mean, it's 2016, maybe we should do a Kickstarter campaign. Who knows? But I know one thing, I'm rambling. That is enough for today. That is the end of the vlog for today. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. See you then. So if everyone wanted to share their 2 cents, they'd do the hashtag, which is, I'll put on the screen.
Yes, yeah. The hashtag below.
Yeah, the hashtag there. G'day, you cracking humans. So today's bike race.